everyone, back again just as promised. We're gonna make this a startup after the battery incident. Now that we're all recharged, we can move forward and try to get into the third knowledge system. But before we do, I wanted to make sure and put some closure on the circle, okay? Because this is how the circle has been squared, okay? Just like we have here with the crosshair, where it's showing 90 degrees at the corners, the inner corners. If we were to flip these outward like so, we flip these corners outward, we come up with the square right here, showing the 90 degrees on each corner of the square. This is how unified information that gives you everything from where you are on the earth, every bit of information about your body. It gives the time. It gives the directions, the seasons, etc. You don't get that from a square, okay? Especially if it's inverted from the circle, you don't get that, okay? So this would be a method of disinformation or dissociation. All right. So I also wanted to elaborate on the 3 and 4 combination that's found in the circle. 3 times 4 is 12, which equates to the 12 hours of the day, 12 months of the year. We have the 7 days, okay, 3 plus 4, which is 7, which is corresponding to the week, which in each week we have the seven lords of the day, the 7 planets, or the planes of consciousness that are directing the weather, or the weather conditions of our environment. Okay, so 4 times 7 days is a lunar month, which is 28 days. 3 times 7 days is 21 days, which is the amount of time it takes to create a habit. Okay, so I wanted to get those little tidbits in and be able to, have that as common knowledge now. Okay, and these are things that you can look up, you can test yourself. It's not something, it's not a belief system, it's a knowledge system. Okay, all right. As you can see, I've actually added colors to show how we've come up, how we can actually develop a color wheel, and we can learn about temperaments according to our seasons. We can learn temperaments according to our personality types when you're superimposing it on the 12 system circle. All right, so I've also superimposed the hours of the day on this circle, okay, the 12 hours. And sometimes it's as simple as turning the circle like so, in order to know where everything sits in accordance to the glyphs, the zodiac glyphs, also of the lords themselves, the planetary frequencies. We would know what hours these frequencies are actually putting in their input. Okay, so this is the science. I mean, we have the primary colors. You can make your color wheel on this same structure. Your primary, your secondary colors, all right, and then your let's see, primary, secondary, and then you have your tertiary colors right here. So it's pretty amazing how many things you can bring together. Not only that, you can actually go into the health and healing aspects, where each one of these months correspond to a part of the body, part of the anatomy. Okay, so Aries corresponds to the head. Taurus corresponds to the neck. Also, Gemini. Gemini are the twins, so you have the twins, the hands and the shoulders, the breasts for the for Cancer, have the heart for Leo. Okay, you have the belly for Virgo. You have Libra, which would be the very middle or the balance point. It corresponds to the midsection where the center of gravity is. And that's how you get that. It's like a balancing of scales on the anatomy itself. You have Scorpio dealing with the genitalia, and we have Sagittarius dealing with the thighs. There's Capricorn dealing with the knees. There's Aquarius dealing with the legs, the lower legs. And of course, we round it off with the feet with Pisces. Pisces are the two flapping feet that are that end the or that complete the circuit. So this is just a glimpse of how the science can be expanded on, and of course, it can get even more involved in detail. And I have a great surprise for you once we learn about the third knowledge system. Actually, I'll go in and pull from here. Third knowledge system, the HRUKTI itself, and just as promised, we will be able to look at, if I can get it close enough, look at how the human being is to be developed. All right, and we have to think in terms of the youth. All right, and remember each one of the planes of consciousness, from plane 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, each one of these has a tree of life in them. Okay, so what happens, okay, at 0 to 6 years old down here at sphere 10, or at the plane of consciousness of 10. Okay, so what we're looking at, I'm marking in the energies that are being fulfilled. All right, so once they're fulfilled, I want to bring it to a certain level. Okay, each level, okay, remember time moves on. Okay, and if the child who is born into the world only gets the lower aspects of the spirit, then when they get to 6 to 12, that really is all they have in terms of physical care. Okay, so they may get the proper nourishment, they may get the encouragement, the emotional the properties that nourish the emotional organs and tissues, like nerve tissue and so forth. They may get the brain tissue that houses the intellect on the left and right hemisphere. They may get also the frontal lobe. Okay, and so they'll be able to move into happiness, into ranges of happiness and so forth. So they'll be able to move on up. But if they don't get those lower aspects, they won't be able to move up and be productive as a 6 to 12-year-old. Okay, so this is how important it is to tell the truth, be truthful with your young stars as they're growing up. Don't lie to them. Okay, this is where baby talk actually cripples them, because they don't get the linguistics down, down pat. Communication is everything. Okay, and if you can't speak the primary language that is expected to be the standard, then of course the respect, won't be able to carry over as well with the peers who may have learned the standards. Okay, so we want to make sure that, just like in video games or in any charging up of um, any appliance that we have, we want to make sure that it's fully charged. We want to fully prepare the youth so that they can be ready for whatever stage they're in. Okay, so this is the fulfillment of the physical needs. This is the fulfillment of the emotional needs. This is fulfillment of the intellectual. We're on the intellectual planes now. That would be Sebek. That's the analytical, intellectual. Okay, we want to fill those all the way up. Each one of these dots all the way up. All right. This is the only way you can actually move up the tree. All right. So we can see 12 to 18 years old, we need all of these faculties completed, but we need them more so in a balanced type of way. And this is where public schooling has failed for the most part, because we normally teach, or the school systems normally teach the child to go here, to go and take the left side and neglect the right side. Okay, remember arts and crafts, those are the things that are mostly neglected because they say it's not something that they're going to make a living at. Where in actuality, you can make a great living if you make a demand. If your society creates a demand for art, people will make a living. But most of the demand has to come from above if you're in a position of governance. Okay, so what happens when you veer left? You tip the scales, remember, because this whole tree is balanced on one pillar. All right, so we don't want to go one side or the other side in our development. We want to go straight up, and that means that once we get here, we want to exercise both hemispheres at the same time, so that we can actually grow, move both hemispheres into a focal point and serve as the support for the heart chakra. Okay, for the heart chakra. Now this is looking at this as the anatomy of the whole body, but we can also utilize this in a term where, or in a tense such that we can use this as the head or the cranial aspect of the human being. Okay, and I'm going to do a brief sketch here to show how that works, because as above, so below. So what happens in the head happens in the whole body. All right, or in the rest of the body. I need to find my pen, my ink pen. Here it is. I found it. All right, so I have a small maquette here that I'm using as a sort of a guide. And so we want to say that the human head, all right, we'll just use this for the dome. And we know that, okay, if we create the face, the facial structure here, we create this facial structure, we should be able to know the approximate location of the hemispheres of the brain. We have the frontal lobe that would be in this area. Okay, we'll have the brows, we'll have the eyes in this area here. Okay, and then we'll have the nose, have the nose here, and then of course the mouth. All right. This is the Vesica Pisces. Okay. All right. So within the frontal lobe, we have the right hemisphere, and then we have the left hemisphere. And so this is made so that we're looking directly and actually attaching it to ourselves when we're observing this model. All right. So in this model, we have the left and right hemisphere, and we want these to be fully developed so that the development can extend further up. All right. So once we get these going further up, now we're allowing ourselves the opportunity to access the supernatural willed processes, because from here on up, the celestials actually assist us in that growth process. Okay, but once we get here, 18 to 24, our physicality and all of the structures that go into creating the organs, that's the tissues and so forth that house the hormones and different fluids of the body. Those fluids would become charged, okay? And so now we have the full potential now to actually access and make resonance with the planetary circuits that are higher, okay? Higher in the heavens, okay? And so symbolically, once we get all of these going, we're actually creating ourselves a crown, okay? So now we can see how, you know, when you see a Dogon mask, you can see that there is a connectivity going on, where, you know, when you have the upper piece on the mask, and you have the lower piece on the mask, that's what's going on there. Okay, you have the Dogon Kanaga, and then of course there's also the crown that is created. Okay, so look, we have the access to the we have access to the plane of law and enforcement of justice. Okay, and so if I were to draw myself a little crown here, we can see the tiara that forms. There's like a tiara that forms here, and it looks just like a crown. Just giving you a little insight on how these symbols work in the mind when we use art as a way of observing, you know, geometry, when we use geometric forms in art to observe fundamental principles of function. All right, so I'm hoping that can be seen very well. If my camera isn't picking it up, I'm going to zoom it in just a little bit closer here. Let's see if I can get that to go up. All right, so we can see the tiara and how when we're able to access the higher realms of the spirit, we can actually go up and create the crown for ourselves. We have the crown. All right, where have we heard of that one before, the crown? All right, so that's what I wanted to be able to show, and this is going to open us up to be able to merge both concepts, okay? And that's going to be the merging of the two cosmological models, the two-dimensional cosmological models, to explain three-dimensional contexts, okay? Three-dimensional events that happen in our earth realm. Then you have what's called syncretism. You're able to synchronize information and knowledge by using the systems of language, by using the systems of a line, circle, and point. Okay, 0 point. And then using the tree of life itself to further explain the connectivity between the heavens, the microcosm, and the microcosm of Earth, the Earth realm. Macrocosm, microcosm. All right, so join me on Friday. No, actually, join me on Saturday, May the 11th. I'm looking forward to getting some feedback in the comment section. Please let me know. Put your email there. Let's see about doing a Facebook live, and if you have questions, we can go from there, and we can make it a build that would help us all move from belief systems to knowledge systems. All right. Thanks so much for taking your time out and learning about this science. We're going to put it all together so that we can actually learn how this whole thing, the cosmological wheel and the tree of life, the Paut Neteru, works. Okay, that's with showing correspondences not only to the ancient Egyptian or the ancient Kemetic Neteru, but we can also show how that links up with the planetary forces as well. All right. Thanks so much again, and we'll be in touch. Coming up next, Maat. We're going to learn a lot about Lady Maat. All right. Thanks so much.